And we're starting with Cody Rhodes, who will challenge undisputed WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40, but the American Nightmare may not have to go it alone. It certainly feels like Reigns has The Rock on his side, and on Raw, Seth Rollins interrupted Cody to pledge his support to his one-time nemesis. "What exists on the other side is very dark," Rollins told Rhodes, warning him of what happens if he goes to WrestleMania and fails to finish his story. Rollins did an excellent job of adding gravity to this situation and making the union between The Rock and Reigns seem like a legitimate threat to all things WWE. The Visionary said he would be Rhodes' shield, a clear reference to his days of teaming with Reigns in arguably the most dominant faction in WWE history. This was a hell of a promo from Rollins, who established a partnership between himself and Rhodes against the might that will be Reigns and his Brahma Bull cousin. This is likely the setup for what was hinted at in the WrestleMania teaser trailer, which seemed to point to Rhodes and Rollins versus Rock and Reigns in an interesting tease by WWE. How we'll get there and still have Reigns versus Rhodes and Seth face his challenger remains to be seen, certainly be an interesting journey to WrestleMania. For years now, Roman Reigns, The Rock, and others have spoken about the impact of the Anoa'i wrestling family, which is home to some of wrestling's top stars. Now, an interesting stat has come to light regarding the Samoan dynasty in WrestleMania, which shows just how dominant the bloodline has been at the Showcase of the Immortals. As a fan on Twitter pointed out, the Anoa'i family have headlined in 15 out of 39 WrestleManias, with Yokozuna, The Rock, the Usos, and Roman Reigns doing the bloodline proud. Jimmy and Jey headlined last year, while Yokozuna would headline twice at Manias 9 and 10, and while The Rock headlined 5 times, Roman Reigns stands tall with 7 main events. The Tribal Chief will look to add number 8 to his resume this April when he faces Cody Rhodes, and this will mark the 16th WrestleMania event for the Bloodline. Whether The Rock is in the ring as well or merely in Reigns' corner, expect a great one in Philly as the Anoa'i family continues to display their dominance in the world of wrestling. More from Raw now, and if you tuned into this week's show, you may have noticed a slightly different color scheme for WWE's flagship show. Raw has always been known as the Red brand, and while that's still the case, the company has chosen to make black the primary color of Raw, with red being served as the secondary look. That was introduced last week and carried on with this week's show, as it appears this change is here to stay for the long term. One fan who noticed the change tweeted their support for the darker color scheme, tagging Adam Pearce in the comments, and it'll be interesting to see if anything else changes for Monday Night Raw. After walking out of WWE in 2014, CM Punk would make his way to the UFC, and after a long delay, he'd compete twice in the Octagon with less than stellar results. Punk lost both of his fights, though the second was overturned when his opponent failed a drug test, and with WWE and UFC now merged under TKO, there's been speculation about what's next. When speaking to ESPN, Seth Rollins was asked if he'd call out anyone in UFC, and while the wrestler didn't fancy his chances, he couldn't help but take a swing at the best in the world. He said, "I'd call them all out, I don't care. I can't do what they do. I'd probably get knocked out and choked in 2 seconds. Still, I might do better than Punk, but I would likely lose. They can't come and do what we do either. Same umbrella, but 2 totally different worlds." Rollins made it clear he doubts any UFC star can do the hectic schedule that entails a WWE career, as your typical superstar competes far more and for far longer than a UFC fighter. CM Punk has shown no interest in returning to the Octagon and is currently focused on healing his torn triceps. But what do you make of Seth's comment? Let us know down below. In an Elimination Chamber qualifier on Raw, LA Knight earned a shot at the World Heavyweight Championship with a win over Ivar, who once again impressed in his singles run. Ivar proved he could hang with a legitimate main event caliber opponent in Knight and come within seconds of beating the megastar. A failed doomsault from the top rope, though, opened up the door for Knight's blunt force trauma to get the win, though he wouldn't have been surprised if AJ Styles had cost Knight the match. After all, Knight played a role in AJ's downfall last Friday, but instead, Knight got the win, securing himself another high-profile match at a WWE Premium Live event. Backstage, Jackie Redmond revealed that Drew McIntyre will square off with Cody Rhodes next week before catching a few words with McIntyre. As all great heels do, Drew was justifying his own role, saying he's the underdog, and it's moments like this that have made his character so engaging. In the main event of Raw, Shinsuke Nakamura defeated Sami Zayn thanks in part to a distraction from Drew McIntyre, and a post-match beatdown by the heels quickly ensued. That was interrupted by Cody Rhodes, who provided backup for Sami while adding heat to this match with Drew McIntyre on next week's Raw. Triple H continues to feature Zayn, Nakamura, and McIntyre in main events, building their credibility and ensuring depth behind Rhodes. Speaking of next week, the show will see Jey Uso versus Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship, and DIY, The Miz, and R-Truth versus the Judgment Day. There will also be a last chance battle royal to fill the last spot in the Women's Elimination Chamber match, and we'll have to see who advances. When Solo Sikoa arrived on WWE's main roster, he quickly amassed an impressive winning streak, but the Enforcer's days of picking up win after win is a distant memory. Sikoa may have a mean streak, but he also has a losing streak, with his last 5 matches on SmackDown all being losses, as well as a dark match to Cody Rhodes, and he's suffered 18 defeats at live events. These losses have seen him come up short against the likes of Kevin Owens, AJ Styles, and LA Knight, and in 2024, Sikoa has racked up 9 losses, 3 of which have occurred in TV matches. The last time Sikoa scored a win was back at Crown Jewel 2023 when he defeated John Cena, and that is Solo's only win over the past 5 months. With the strong presence and aggressive build-up WWE has given Solo, it'd be interesting to see if his losing streak turns around and makes him end up on the winners list. In a promo, Becky Lynch insisted she would win the Elimination Chamber and go to WrestleMania 40 to challenge Rhea Ripley for the Women's World Championship, but Nia Jax made her presence felt. Jax reminded Lynch that Ripley has to get past her first, and this brought out the Women's World Champion, and a scuffle ensued, ending with Jax being cleared out of the ring and a tense stare-down. This was a fine way to continue building to what feels like an inevitable Lynch-Ripley title match, while keeping fans invested in the idea that Jax may throw a wrench into the proceedings. Lynch was fantastic here, bringing real emotion to the promo, as she reiterated how devoted to the industry she is, despite what it has occasionally cost her. Lynch got emotional as she recalled missing her father's funeral because of her dedication to professional wrestling. She discussed the conversations she's had with her young daughter about her injuries and how they've affected her role as a mother. As expected, the crowd popped huge for Rhea Ripley's arrival, and while a match with Lynch is seemingly inevitable, the fans are clearly enjoying the ride so far. More from Raw, and with the threat of another Judgment Day beatdown hovering over him, R-Truth squared off against JD McDonagh. Though Truth dominated the majority of the match, the Irish Ace got the win with his new finisher, the Devil Inside, and a post-match beatdown on Truth was interrupted by DIY. This post-match segment only furthers the ongoing rivalry between the two sides, even though it'll be Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne who challenge for the tag titles in Perth. The match was mostly forgettable, with Truth's character work taking center stage before the impressive finisher from his opponent. While forgettable, this match did what it needed to do and helped set up the 6-man tag we'll see on next week's Raw. Now, Dominik Mysterio has gone from merely being seen as Rey Mysterio's son to one of WWE's most loathed heels, with big things expected in his future. Mysterio was supposed to face Brock Lesnar at Elimination Chamber Perth, but that's not the case anymore, so what's next for the self-professed hardened criminal? With WrestleMania 40 getting ever closer, there's speculation as to what role the Judgment Day will have, but as he explained on K100, Dominik is currently in the dark about his plans for April. I have no idea what I'm doing at Mania. I don't really get a heads up on anything when it comes to creative and stuff. Tell me what to do, and I'll do my best to go out there and make it look as best as possible to the best of my abilities. I'm not in the position to be politicking. I'm very blessed to be in the position that I'm in, so I'm not going to be poking at any bears or any fingers or anything. Tell me what to do, and I'm here for it. I'm happy. I'm having a blast doing it, especially with the crew that I'm doing it with. I've become actual friends with everybody there. So being able to just go out there and have fun and beat the shit out of people, I'm having an absolute blast. WrestleMania 40 is still over a month away, so there's still time for WWE to come up with a plan for Dominik, as well as the other members of the Judgment Day. If Rhea Ripley is still the Women's World Champion, we know she'll be defending against the winner of the Women's Elimination Chamber match, but what should Dirty Dom be doing this April? More from Raw, as the budding rivalry between Jey Uso and Gunther was represented at the top of the show, with Jey teaming with the New Day to battle Imperium. Given the wars between the New Day and the Usos, it was surreal to see this trio, and maybe even a little wrong, but the chemistry between them is undeniable. Gunther, Ludwig Kaiser, and Giovanni Vinci controlled the pace by isolating Kofi before the hot tag was made to Jey, giving fans their first in-ring altercation between Uso and the Austrian. After taking Gunther out, Jey splashed Vinci to win, and this was an energetic opener that had the crowd hooked throughout. Speaking of the crowd, we love the enthusiasm, but feel that the yeet chant will get real old real quick, but that didn't take away from this match that puts Jey in line for an Intercontinental title match. Whether it's at Elimination Chamber Perth or WrestleMania, these two have the potential to have a show stealer, and much of that can be credited to Jey establishing himself as his own man. Gunther was no slouch as he remains an unbeatable champion, and the 4 other men in this match also played their roles well. Kofi Kingston wore the Jordan 1 Travis Scott Mocha sneakers, with some fans expressing shock at the $1,500 shoes, but not even Kofi's flashy footwear could take the spotlight off Jey Uso. In an Elimination Chamber qualifier, Bobby Lashley joined Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton in the barbaric structure with a win over Bronson Reed. Lashley overcame a force of nature in Reed and put him down with a spear, and this match highlighted Reed's ability to dominate any match while Lashley can still fight from underneath. With that said, at some point Reed has to win, as with each loss he gets, the shine continues to rub off this monster heel WWE is trying to pass off as unstoppable. Instead, Reed is proving to be very stoppable, and losing this qualifier, which would have sent Reed to a huge match in his native Australia, has done Bronson no favors. A video vignette highlighted Andrade and revealed that he left 3 years ago because he needed to be reminded of who he is. Now he's back to win championships. Andrade was once considered to be WWE's next top Latino star, something they've been looking for years, and we'll have to see how he's used now that he's back. In a Women's Elimination Chamber qualifier, Liv Morgan earned her spot with a win over Zoey Stark in another blow to the team of Stark and Shayna Baszler. Having Stark and Shayna Baszler, top contenders to the women's tag team titles, lose in consecutive weeks says a lot about where that particular championship stands in terms of importance. And that was Raw, another quality episode which had some great in-ring content, but it was the promo segment with Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins that really stood out. The show has a creative focus that has not always been there on these 3-hour shows, but Triple H and his team appear to have found a stride that is making Raw the best it's been in some time. Rhodes, McIntyre, Rollins, Zayn, and Nakamura are the core competitors for the brand, and they've been at the forefront for weeks now. As long as he can continue that and remember to continue focusing energy and creating stars out of the underutilized, the show will be fine. If not, he risks overexposing his most important stars. Luckily, that hasn't been a problem under his guidance to this point, as everything on Raw felt like it should have been there. At TNA No Surrender, Mustafa Ali will challenge Chris Sabin for the X Division Championship in what will also be Ali's first official match for the promotion. This is a golden opportunity for Ali, who recently won a title with Dreamwave Wrestling, but Sabin believes that Ali may have skipped the queue when it comes to a title shot. On Twitter, Sabin called Ali a politician who buys advertising during matches, and can only assume that Ali bought a title shot without earning it. In a tweet of his own, Ali denied the allegations, saying speculation that he bought a title shot is merely speculation, and we'll have to see who leaves No Surrender with the X Division title. Now, John Cena's time in Hollywood is going from strength to strength, but recently, Warner Brothers pulled the plug on his Coyote vs. Acme film, to much backlash from moviegoers. WBD pulled the film from its release schedule and chalked it up as a $30 million tax write-off, and while others distributors have shown interest, it seems the film will never see the light of day. When composer Stephen Price shared a behind-the-scenes photo of creating the score for the film and started a Release Coyote vs. Acme hashtag, that message clearly began trending. Fans rallied behind the hashtag and shared why they feel the film should be released, and it remains to be seen whether Cena's role in the film will ever reach a cinema screen. For the Super Bowl, a commercial was released featuring Jade Cargill splashing Aubrey Plaza to promote the new Mountain Dew drink, but this brief commercial has caused quite a stir. When Zelina Vega tweeted that Jade sort of looked like her in the commercial, Cargill said that nobody thought it was the LWO member and cautioned her against making similar comments. This response seems to have caused some heat, as after comments by fans, Jade deleted the tweet and later said it was just a joke and fans need to relax. In the age of social media, interpreting the intent behind tweets can be challenging, with messages often being taken at face value, but Cargill and Vega were simply having some fun this week. Recently, WWE changed its commentary teams in a move that would lead to Kevin Patrick's release, and now there's been even further changes to their broadcast teams. Byron Saxton has been moved to SmackDown for backstage interviewing, while Kathy Kelly has been moved to Raw, and this may be extra bad news for Saxton. This shift may have caused Byron to lose his role as WWE main event commentator, as that show is taped before Raw, and for 2 weeks straight, he's not been calling the action. Instead, the show's been called by Blake Howard and Road Dogg, as Saxton's time behind the commentary desk has seemingly come to an end. We have some concerning news now regarding New Japan's Taiji Ishimori, whose use of a certain gesture during an independent event has shocked fans. The incident occurred during a CMLL Fantastica Mania 2024 event, a collaborative show between New Japan and CMLL, and was held at the Edio Arena in Osaka. During a fatal four-way, Ishimori, who was wearing military fatigues, performed what was interpreted as a Nazi salute in a shocking display that drew gasps from the crowd. It's vital to note that cultural differences and varying social norms exist between different regions of the world, and what may be shocking to some may not carry those connotations elsewhere. Whether Ishimori's gesture was intentional or merely coincidental remains uncertain, but this incident has certainly sparked discussions about cultural sensitivity in the name of entertainment. During the Mexican promotion Mas Lucha's most recent event, Penta El Cero Miedo teamed up with Macabre in a tag match against Menelik and Ray Triton, but things did not go to plan. This match was part of a tournament semifinal that Penta and Macabre would lose, and on Twitter after the match, Mas Lucha noted that Penta suffered a shoulder injury during the bout. Photos were shared and Penta could be seen clutching his shoulder as he headed to the back, and this injury could cause huge issues for Penta's plans in AEW. Hopefully this situation isn't too serious, but whatever the diagnosis is, we are wishing the talented wrestler a full and speedy recovery. Soccer news now, and after scoring a goal for Tottenham Hotspur last weekend, Brennan Johnson celebrated with a pose that many wrestling fans noted as similar to Jeff Hardy. This is no accident, as on Spurs' TikTok page, Johnson said this pose was for Hardy, who's his favorite wrestler, and it's cool to see how Jeff has influenced all sorts of unique people. When you think about the word hero, you may picture some muscle-bound Adonis like Superman or John Cena, but this week, the young Boom Swollen proved that one can be a hero at any age. The grandson of the late Brian Pillman, Swollen discovered a plot to harm students and staff at his school, according to Fox 19, and promptly told his father about the prospective school shooting. Swollen's father promptly alerted the authorities to the plan, which were subsequently stopped by local law enforcement, with a 14-year-old being arrested and the crisis averted. Hamilton County Prosecutor Melissa Powers praised Swollen's actions in alerting authorities and helping to thwart what could have ended up as a deadly tactic, as she told Fox 19, "We believed that this was going to be carried out. We believed it was a tragedy that was averted because of the bravery of a student and the family doing the right thing. They saw something, they heard something, and they said something. We believe that had that student not come forward and nobody discovered the plan that was out there for weeks and being planned by the student of Marymount, we'd be talking about a tragedy in our community with a lot of lives lost." The bravery shown by the 14-year-old is beyond anything a wrestler could fathom seeing in the ring, and we're sure Brian Pillman would be immensely proud of his grandson's heroics. What do you make of this story? Let us know in the comments down below.